View from the Gutters, episode 85. Welcome to View from the Gutters, the comic book podcast where each episode we discuss a collected edition, trade paperback, or graphic novel, and then recommend and vote on the book for the next episode. Warning: the discussion portion of this show has massive spoilers for that book. On this episode, we discuss The Incredible Hercules, Volume 1, and, to skip ahead to the recommendation section, skip to 4825.
I think I'm done with this line of conversation.
All right. Are we recording?
Yeah, for 10 minutes.
Good deal. Welcome to View from the Gutters.
Yeah.
Episode 85.
That's right.
I'm Tobias Panchin.
I'm Andrew Chard.
Brant Gillihan Eddy.
There's a motorcycle behind you.
I'm Adam Panchin, returning because I recommended the last book.
Sweet.
This book, whatever.
And I'm Kid Reynolds.
And
Awesome.
Joe is feeling super sick after our Rose City Comic Con adventure.
Oh, he gets to go on vacation and have all the fun and then not show up to work the next day.
Yep.
Sure. See how it is.
That's Joe.
A lot of people get sick at cons.
Con
Yes,
crud is a
but
thing.
It is a thing. Carry hand
Hopefully
sanitizers,
our
please.
Con Report episode will be coming out in like 2 days.
Yeah. From the time this airs.
Yeah.
2 days from the time this goes out, which is
Yeah, in the future. I'm
in
doing
the
future math.
future.
Correct.
World of Tomorrow.
Yeah, so we got a con report coming up, and stay tuned for that. But this week...
Well, we've also got our long run that's going to be coming out like early next week, too.
Correct. Yes. So get reading on that giant reading list.
Like Joe, who I literally like just handed him like all of the reading material because he hasn't done any of it yet.
Yeah, Joe's bad about doing
Oh,
his
then I don't
homework.
feel so bad. I've only got like 40 issues left.
Yeah, Kate, you're always like the first or second one done. I don't think you... If I hadn't just read all of these to make the list, I would be reading them today and tomorrow. So,
I finished like 2 weeks ago.
yeah. Brant isn't reading it.
I'm not.
Brant's too cool for school.
He's too cool for the long run.
Too busy for the long run.
Yeah, we could call it that,
And
too.
to be fair, Brant's probably read most of it.
Actually, I've read big chunks of it. I haven't read all of it, though.
Well, yeah.
Which is
There's a lot
unfortunate
of these that I never would have picked up if it hadn't
Yeah.
been for this.
There's some that I included that were just more like, I think they're cool.
Yeah.
I mean, there's lots of stuff that is not
Well,
super necessary, but
this is more a discussion for a different episode.
No,
Yeah,
we
no.
want to talk
Well,
extensively
I'm-
about something else that we're going to talk about later.
priming you for
That-
getting ready to read the long run.
Almost half the people in this room aren't actually reading.
That's correct.
This is the hors d'oeuvre to the main course
Yeah.
that is the long run.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
The soup course.
this week we're talking about
Soup course.
The
That's a
Incredible
thing, right?
Hercules.
Right.
Yes.
And
We are.
Adam, you pitched The Incredible Hercules. So rereading, what did you think of it?
I'm reminded that some of the better parts are in the later volumes once it hits its stride. And it's also conjuring up a lot of the context that made it memorable for me at the time, because I've tended to fluctuate between Marvel and DC the last 15 or so years, depending on which one I feel is more on the uptick and meeting my tastes. And Incredible Hercules, it's post-Civil War and World War Hulk. It's running alongside Secret Invasion and Dark Reign, and this was kind of a low point in my Marvel interest. I was only following a couple Marvel books at a time then, and this was one that caught my attention because it was, it wasn't, although it did get sidelined in all the event nonsense, it was trying to do not exactly traditional superheroics, but Hercules as somebody in the Marvel superhero mold of flawed heroes, trying to be a hero, and using the Greek myths, which, if you've read anything about them, and the multiple conflicting versions, and continuities and retcons, and canon wars, were very much the superhero comics of the time. And it does some interesting drawing in showing, how there are a lot of similarities between Marvel superheroes today and the Greek heroes of the time, and dealing with that stuff.
Well, it's something that DC has always done a lot more, is like the superheroes as gods kind of feel to me.
As icons.
And
as distant icons. And I mean, that's the fight that Hercules and Ares have in this volume, is why do they love you when you're such a fuck-up?
Yeah. It's he's the god that you love to hate.
Also, you killed my pigeons.
Yeah, that's...
Swans.
Like 3,000 years ago.
They were like magic arrow shooting birds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of creepy. They like shot their own feathers. Eventually they would just be bald.
Yeah,
and
Well, that's
not able
literally
to fly.
the exact same thing that Archangel does.
Yeah, but his are like metal and knife.
Yeah, these had needles.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's the same stuff. People don't change. Just the context does.
Yeah, I will agree with Adam that I do think that it hits its stride a little bit after this arc. I don't know what was collected in the first trade.
The first trade is the first 4 issues, and then one like bonus issue.
It's what I passed at least to Toby. Where it's the first arc and the Hercules Hulk
versus Hercules when
okay.
Titans collide.
Cool.
One shot.
the one that's mostly flashback.
Cool. The second trade is the Secret Invasion,
Where the
tie-in.
God Squad go to fight the Skrull gods.
I
And
kept
it's-
reading because I was like, man, I really like this. I probably read 30 issues of it today. And it definitely hits a stride, and when it's like the Amazonians,
it's the one
and like,
after that one where it's the Hulk, Namor, and Namora
Yes.
one. It's the later on ones where it's Hercules and Thor dealing with Nine World stuff and the Dark Elves. Those are some really great arcs.
I only read the
Those are
first
really
volume because we were at Comic-Con all weekend, and I was just kind of short on time. But I have read later issues from this series, specifically one where it's Thor and Hercules in like the land of the Dark Elves, and Hercules dresses up as Thor because Thor is missing.
Yeah.
It's like him and young Loki.
No. Young, spoiler alert, young Zeus.
Oh, right. Yeah. Zeus gets like turned into a kid at one point. And so he's pretending to be Thor and seducing the Queen of the Dark Elves, but then Thor shows up and pretends to be Hercules, and they get into a big fight.
Is this the trade titled The Mighty Thorcules?
Probably.
Yeah.
Almost assuredly. I don't remember.
I think
It's just
that's
a random
right near
issue
the
that I
end.
grabbed at the
Yeah, I
time.
think it
Because
ends
much like
with-
Adam, like this is the period where I was getting into DC for the first time, and I really wasn't reading Marvel because I didn't like Civil War. I didn't like World War Hulk. I didn't like Secret
This was
Invasion.
the last golden age of DC, in our opinion. The Infinite Crisis through Original 52 and a little bit after up through Final Crisis.
Yeah, that's the decline of DC for me. That's when, like, after 52 and I started reading Countdown is when I went back to Marvel, and I think I picked these up as, like, I'm going to get caught up on stuff. Because I never read these in singles. I definitely always read them as, like, collections.
For me, the DC that I got to know was, like, Infinite Crisis, which I read even having, like, very little idea of what was going on. And then 52 and all the stuff after that up until
1 year later.
Flashpoint. Because, 1 year later was happening at the same time as 52. That's when Booster Gold had his own series. That's when Stephanie Brown became Batgirl.
Jaime Reyes, Blue Beetle.
Yep.
Right. Like, all that really good,
Adam Cho
like,
is the all-new Adam.
ultra-modern stuff from, like...
Ryan Cho? It's Ryan,
Ryan
Cho.
Cho.
Yeah,
Ryan Cho.
from, like, 2007 until 2010.
This was the Marvel Now, the DC version of Marvel Now.
Oh, yeah.
With all the, new heroes, new gimmicks, new starts.
Yeah, I was a big fan of that stuff, and that's kind of everything that they undid with the New 52, so...
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That whole decline of DC for me just pushed me back to Marvel when I would go find these like gems that I had missed reading in the
And
singles.
at the time it was, I was, like I did during the New 52, I looked for the stuff that was off to the sides, which was Planet Hulk and then Incredible Hercules, which are both Greg Pak, who was doing good stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it was Agents of Atlas was somewhere in there.
Yeah.
A little bit earlier than this because that brought back Namora, and she's in a couple arcs further down.
It's in, I just read this today. It's in the Namora arc, at the end of that, she gets some telepathy from Agents of Atlas, and it says to be continued in Agents of Atlas #1, which is the ongoing. So I think the miniseries might have been concurrent with this.
A little bit earlier, because there was a gap.
Yeah.
So that's, I had fun with this at the time, and at the time the context for me was DC in its ascendancy, Marvel in its, at a low point, and Incredible Hercules was Marvel doing what felt to me more like Marvel's traditional strong point, the flawed hero grappling with what heroism really is while having some really fun banter and, the bits with Wonder Man and Ares.
Ares was definitely a cool antagonist in just the few issues that we read.
I miss Marvel Ares.
Yeah.
What happened to him? I know he
died in Siege, but he's a god, so he'll be back when somebody cares to bring him back.
Yeah, the Sentry rips him in half.
That's right. I remember him getting ripped in half, but I was like, am I just thinking of the Sentry ripping Carnage in half?
No.
Yeah, he did that too.
Yeah, I know. And
that was kind of his go-to move for about a year.
Yeah, Superman throws stuff into the sun. Sentry
just rips him in half. Yeah.
Well, that's what I thought. What did other people think of it?
Well, I liked it so much I kept reading, so that shows you how much I was enjoying it. I love Amadeus Cho. I think he's a phenomenal character. He's if I had to fantasy draft the #1 character I want to see in the Marvel Cinematic / television universe, it's Amadeus Cho.
Well, and they already have the great visualization for him, because I've always loved the way they visualize his power, quote unquote.
Oh, yeah.
With all the
the calculus
highlighted
symbols and
stuff in it.
I love it.
I do really like that, and I've liked other appearances of Amadeus Cho later. This one rubbed me a little bit the wrong way, and specifically it's the moment at the beginning when he's being held by S.H.I.E.L.D., and the guy's like, I know you've calculated every number of ways to take me down. Like, you could scrape your chair and produce exactly the right frequency to knock me out. Like, you could do all these things. And I really fucking hate that move, where it's like, this person's is super intelligent, so they can take a hairdryer and a toaster and an iPod, and they can build, like, a teleporter.
You're thinking of MacGyver.
It's like, that doesn't fucking work. Like, it bothers me, the person who's like, we're going to represent them being super intelligent by me saying that they can do just impossible fucking
he's exaggerating.
things.
I mean, he's
this is not things he actually does. This is somebody else's misunderstanding of his powers.
And I like that he's not doing anything to escape, because he's using the time, he's biding his time to steal the laptop until he knows that Hercules is going to cause a distraction, because he knows that he's going to break out.
My favorite part
that's
of
the smarts that Amadeus has, is like the
Right.
patience to wait.
I like his depiction later on.
I like this whole arc of him, like, is he going to be the next great hero? Is he going to be the next great villain? Like, I like that. It's the same kind of thing with Tim Hunter in the DC universe. Is like, are you going to be evil or are you going to be good? You have all this power. Are you going to use
Avengers
it
Academy
properly?
did later as well.
Which is Tim Hunter?
He's the one that Harry Potter stole everything from.
Okay.
Or at least that people say. Yeah.
Not everything.
Yeah. He looks like Harry Potter, but he skateboards and he has an owl.
Yeah.
So
Harry Potter doesn't
literally
skateboard.
Harry Potter.
he's Harry Potter.
Harry Potter doesn't skateboard.
He's the next great.
In my mind, he does.
He's the next great.
In the fan fiction I'm writing now.
He was going to be the next great. There's the book Journey. Oh no, it's House of
Magic? No, House of Secrets and House of Mystery.
It's Books of Magic.
How many books?
Yes.
It's Books
Book of Magic. That's what it's called. Sorry. I have the worst time with names. It's Book of
House of
Magic,
Mystery.
written by Neil Gaiman, and basically the plot was Tim Hunter's going to be this next great wizard, and these 4 DC magician, quote-unquote, guys, like Mr. E, Constantine,
Phantom Stranger,
and somebody else
Zatanna?
shows up. Zatanna shows up at some point, but she's not one of the trench coat brigade. There's like 4 guys that
Dr.
work.
Occult.
Yeah.
The trench
But like
coat brigade.
Dr. Fate shows up too at some point. So there's like all these magic guys.
I read the Timothy Hunter series.
Yeah.
I think a friend of mine was collecting it. I don't remember much now.
Yeah, it
but
was Book of Magic was the Neil Gaiman one, and then Books of Magic was the ongoing. But anyway, they came to him and they're like, you could be good or evil. And I like that kind of trope. Like, I feel like that's cool in a youth character. So I like that about Amadeus Cho. I don't like that it's resolved completely within 4 issues and then it never really comes up again.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of wish that it was.
Well, I feel like
more,
Amadeus was really Greg Pak's. Like, I don't feel like anybody else has really approached him.
Yeah, but Greg Pak wrote the whole rest of it.
No, I know, but I feel like I think he said before that, like, he kind of got told to go other places and not like that. Because, like, that's kind of a weightier topic, and it's clear that the direction for Incredible Hercules is more upbeat. And so he may not have felt like, because I think he got a directive post World War Hulk and Planet Hulk is like, okay, Greg, a little upbeat now.
Has Amadeus Cho shown up recently?
Yeah. Just the last Avengers, remember?
Yeah.
The
last Avengers was like a flash forward into the future.
Or time skip.
Yeah, it's a time skip, and they're like hunting these people, and one of the people they're hunting is
right.
Amadeus Cho.
So Amadeus Cho just showed up in the Ultimate Universe.
Really?
In actually all new X-Men, because they just got dumped in the Ultimate Universe.
That's right.
And I was confusing those two things.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I know I just saw him. But no, that was totally
He's been mentioned
Ultimate
in other
him.
things, too.
Yeah. He shows up. He's still around.
He was created by Greg Pak, and Greg Pak is the one who has used him most, but now he is showing up in the Hickman Avengers, and we'll see what he's going to do now.
That's not the only time that's happened with a character.
Yeah.
Stephanie Brown, for example, was Chuck Dixon's baby for a long time.
I get it. You like Stephanie Brown. God, all we ever talk about is Stephanie Brown.
It's Batman month.
Oh, yeah.
It's Superior Batman month.
Best Superior Batman month. We've
replaced
your
Batgirl month.
Yeah, I was gonna say. First of all, this is Batgirl. Second of all, we've replaced your dark brooding Batman with a dark brooding Batman.
Yeah. No, with a fun
with Azrael.
We read that story. Don't you remember?
Hey,
you were on that episode.
I wasn't.
More
You
flavor
weren't.
tastes great.
Yeah.
Or no, fewer calories tastes great.
Yeah.
more filling.
Less filling tastes great.
Whatever.
Now I just have the Mentos song stuck in my head. I'm not sure why. If I had to fantasy draft any character for I think people would love Amadeus Cho. Like no one knows, like the general public don't know Amadeus Cho. But I feel like
he wouldn't fit in a traditional superhero book because he has to be plotting and manipulating and using gadgets.
Yeah, I think he would fit in with like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or like in an Avengers story or in an Iron Man movie or something. Like, hey, he's a cool character.
They decide that they want to kind of expand on the idea of the Future Foundation at some point. I think that he would work really great in a Future Foundation book.
Yeah.
So, Cade, what did you think of Incredible Hercules?
I liked it. It was... Well, I always say that, huh?
Yes, you always like things.
Though. Infinite Crisis.
Yes, there are like 2 times that you've said that you hated a book.
Okay, so my thoughts on Hercules were I didn't feel that this trade was really enough to pull me in. But it wasn't that there was anything wrong with it. I was just that, like...
This is the pilot episode, basically.
Yeah.
The pilot 2-parter.
And I thought it was fun. I did really like Amadeus Cho. I liked the Hercules going crazy on the stuff.
Hydra blood.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty well done.
I did really like
Black
that
Widow.
moment where Ares is like going to get it, and he's like, if you dial a phone anywhere in the United States or anywhere in the world or whatever, like S.H.I.E.L.D. looks for certain keywords.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought that was a really great scene.
I thought so too. I think the Black Widow scene too.
Yeah,
where
that Black Widow scene was my absolute favorite.
She like burns the poison out of him. And
Yeah.
How did you know it was gonna work or whatever? And then she's like, I did all this research on you. And then
Back when we were in the Champions.
Now you have to punch me and make it look real.
Yes,
to make sure
with
my
the
head
actual
stays
editor's note saying, you can remember, surely you remember this, it was Champions ¡1. It was only published in 1975.
I love how steeped this is in Marvel history.
Yeah, well, they pick up the Godzilla fighting shield carrier.
Yep. The Behemoth.
Yeah.
Which is a sweet name for a shield carrier. It also looks super 70s, which it's just square.
Oh, yeah, it's just a box, and it's got like the giant
80s.
turbines on it.
Yeah.
But this series really does remind me of what I found so upsetting about Marvel at the time, with all of the, like, we're heroes, but we don't know who we can trust, and, like, are you on our side or not? And it's like, we're working with Ares, and he's the god of war, and maybe that's, like, not the best decision, and it's just all of this, like, mire of conflict. And they're, like, I know that Marvel is very much like, our heroes are conflicted, like, that's how they are, but I think it went too far, especially leading into Secret Invasion.
The thing is, the premise isn't terrible, and honestly they're doing sort of the same thing, it looks like, with the post-time skip with the, are you with the Illuminati or are you with S.H.I.E.L.D.? And
yeah, absolutely. I think that the counterpoint to that, though, is series like this, where, yeah, you have heroes acting, in questionable ways, but you have heroes like Natasha Romanoff, who knows how to play the game, and so although she may appear to not be doing the right thing, like she knows what the right thing is to do because she is a heroic character. You have guys like Wonder Man saying like, hey, Herc, can't we get back on the same side so that we can start punching bad guys again? Like, isn't that what we do? And then Ares shows up and like blows them all up.
And Wonder Man has always been one of my favorite characters.
do think that the conflict between Hercules and Ares is a conflict of hero versus villain, and I think that Greg Pak kind of was able to like sidestep the whole company.
Absolutely. And I think that Greg Pak is one of the people who did a really good job with it. It just reminded me of all the other stuff that I was like, man, this is why I wasn't reading Marvel Comics during this period.
That's why you pick and choose.
And, the conflict was somewhat meta because here's Ares. He's the, anti-hero of the time on the, on the Avengers, but he's the god of war, and, he uses guns and shoots people, and him against Hercules.
Yeah. And I love the fight scene when they're on the Behemoth and all the helicarriers are shooting missiles at them, and like Hercules throws Ares into a missile, and then Ares like catches one and throws it. And like that stuff was awesome. And there's like
that
thunder and lightning in the background.
Yeah, and
iconic.
You really get the sense that these are, these are Iron Age superheroes who have been going at it for 3,000 years. Yeah. They have history.
Oh yeah. And they're just like the immortal prowess of these guys, and then when they fight, it's just like taking huge missiles to the face, no problem. Like I love that kind of power scale. It's not something you see at Marvel all that often. Mm-hmm. Brian, what do you think about it?
All right. I really like Incredible Hercules, and I'm coming at it from the direction that Planet Hulk to World War Hulk may be one of my actual favorite self-encapsulated events in Marvel history.
You dug World War Hulk?
I did. I don't know. So here's my whole thing. I understand that sometimes it's hard and it's not desirable, or it's just kind of off-putting to have kind of the dark, grim superhero story. The thing that I liked about Marvel for those couple of years is that I felt like they gave themselves this opportunity to kind of explore things in this longer form that felt like there was some natural consequence to some of the things that they chose to do. So it's like, if you establish this group of people like the Illuminati, and they make certain decisions, like, what are the actual ramifications of those decisions? I liked all the Hulk stuff because it kind of was a really fantastic arc for giving Hulk a different dynamic, showing the Green Hulk that is kind of intelligent, but not super intelligent, but kind of almost back to his original roots where he has some cognitive ability.
Well, he speaks. He speaks.
Plans.
They're not super complicated plans.
No, not at first, but it shows that if he that he actually can learn, he can evolve, and so the whole Hulk arcs that Pak kind of puts together. I'm not saying they're perfect, and there's way too many crossover issues with other things, and like there are
Planet Hulk is so self-contained, and so encapsulated that I think Marvel wasn't prepared for it to be as good as it was,
right?
Because arguably Hulk had been not good for a long time. That when they did World War Hulk, they were like, all right, 15 crossovers. Right. There's World War Hulk Warbound and World War Hulk After Smash and
over-reliance on events and crossover events.
Yeah, but what I liked about World War Hulk ultimately is while there may be individual things that I can point out being like, I don't know that was great, I felt like it was a natural consequence. If you throw Hulk off the planet and are like, well, thank God we got rid of that will never fucking work for you.
Yeah.
And so it felt great for me to have this kind of the chickens have come home to roost kind of a thing. Like, you did this thing, you knew it was not a good idea. Oh, sure, you thought it was the best possible thing, and here's like the natural consequence of that stuff. And
you have sown the wind.
Yeah.
My least favorite part of that is twofold. One, it happens immediately after that story. So there's no time for Hulk to be gone for a significant number of time for them to relax about it.
Yeah.
Because they know he was off course. They're like, uh-oh.
Right.
Things went wrong. And two, it took him off the table in a cosmic sense for what was like a really cool cosmic event which was happening at the time, which was War of Kings, in which Hulk should have been one of those kings.
Yeah, that could have been cool. I see what you're saying.
That would have been amazing.
I think that would have been awesome.
And I totally agree with Chard. Well, I guess I agree with both Chard and Brandt in ways. I agree with you, Brandt, that there were a lot of really awesome ideas that they were working with, but I don't feel like it is necessarily executed in the best way. Like, I love Planet Hulk. I thought World War Hulk was a good idea that was really poorly executed.
No, but I'm saying that on a larger scale, I liked Dark Reign. I loved Warren Ellis's run on Thunderbolts. I loved seeing that reach through its natural thing. I feel like DC only barely captured some of the lightning in the bottle that was Lex Luthor as president. So like Harry Osborn as head of Hammer, like actually Norman Osborn as head of Hammer, like that actually taking 18 months to play out, actually having the former Masters of Evil Thunderbolts under his control, like all that stuff. There was enough there that I was like, I appreciate the flavor of this universe, and there were stories like Hercules that were offsetting the darkness to us.
And I agree with you on that. But like I was commenting to Adam earlier today, I think that Secret Invasion would have worked a lot better if they had planned it out before Civil War, so that you could see, like, if you go back and look through things, you can actually see like the Skrulls engineering the superhero Civil War and setting things up to take a darker tone and actually like infiltrating and destabilizing the Earth so that when their invasion happens, they're not facing a single united front. And I don't think that Marvel did that.
No, they didn't have enough time after reading those Astro City issues that they took that plot from.
I have to agree that it's an execution thing. That Dark Reign, I agree, is a great idea in concept. The problem was, I don't know if it was the crossover mania or the event mania, but it took up too much room. I was saying I was looking in the corners for the stuff less affected by the events, like Incredible Hercules, that were still fun. It was too dominating for the entire Marvel line and squeezed out too many other potential stories.
Well, see, and what I liked about it was that it was dominating the entire line. Because it was, guess what? There's been a civil war. There's been this thing. And half the books are not going to just be like, well, we're going to go do whatever we're doing. It's like, no. There is Norman Osborn. There is this stuff. There is the Registration Act. There is the 50 State Initiative. It is the universe. This is the world you exist in. And if you wanted to escape from that, well, then you better go read Nova and the Annihilation Wave stuff, because if you're on Earth, if you're in the United States, this is the thing that's happening. Now,
you had books like this. You had books like Agents of Atlas. There was stuff.
Yeah, I was reading Nova at the time.
Yeah, so I hear your point. Like, and I think that I think ultimately you have to try this experiment. Like DC did some amazing experiments with this stuff with like Infinite Crisis and the New 52 and one year later. And I think this was Marvel's version of that same laboratory experiment. How do we create things that affect the world but don't necessarily, because like Dark Reign itself wasn't like a 12-issue miniseries with a bunch of offshoot books. It was the thing that was in the background that you just had to kind of consider.
Right, and I think that definitely worked better than Civil War and Secret Invasion.
And maybe it's part of the planning in the editorial, because these days you hear about the Marvel writer retreats where they're getting all the writers on board with what the next events are going to be months and months ahead of time, so they can plan for it, so they can incorporate it into their stories instead of it just sort of rolling in and hijacking their books. And maybe that's the difference, because, Marvel's doing a really good job of that now, with everybody doing Time is Broken sort of stories. And it all really feels like it's all part of a shared, things are going wrong, it's all going to build up to something, instead of it just sort of rolling in and hijacking stuff.
Yeah, and the Skrull invasion stuff, I mean, Bendis did lay the groundwork for a lot of that with his initial Avengers run after he did Avengers Disassembled and then into that. But it's just, I think that was his, like, he had planned for that. But, like, I think what you're saying is right, Adam. Like, they didn't necessarily have the company-wide vision to account for it well in advance.
Right.
Yeah, and if you want to read the story where, while Civil War is happening, there are aliens manipulating all of that, you can read Astro City Volume 3, The Confessor and something, where all of the superheroes have to be registered because of this new initiative from the government, but actually the mayor of that city, of Astro City, is a shape-changing alien from space who's softening the heroes for a secret invasion, which came out like 2 years before. But what I love, I'm with Brand on this.
You see where it's stealing from, man.
What I loved about Dark Reign was, I think that's the most unified the Marvel Universe has ever felt. Because while I am reading a lot of Marvel books, if you're not reading Avengers, New Avengers, and Uncanny Avengers, there are a lot of books that are kind of just sidestepping the whole like Illuminati versus whatever. Because like She-Hulk is not really dealing with it, Ms. Marvel's not dealing with it, Captain Marvel's out in outer space. You know,
that makes sense.
All the X-Men books are kind of dealing with.
Well, the X-Men have kind of always been their own thing.
Right,
But you got like Ghost Rider and
over there.
Iron Fist.
Those aren't dealing with it at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's
Punisher's
offering
not.
choice. You can be as involved as you want to be depending on your reading choices, and I like that.
Yeah.
Well, but I understand that. But my problem is has always been with comics, and this is why sometimes I get frustrated when it's not acknowledged. Is it's like Spider-Man's web swinging through New York. Wasn't Galactus there last week? Didn't he like destroy half the buildings in the town?
Now we're getting deep into the issues of how shared is your shared universe.
Yeah, and I liked what Dark Reign was doing only because it felt like I could be reading a few books and get the feel, like the tangible feel of what the universe was like, where right now, you know, I could be reading Death of Wolverine and a couple times over here, and also Edge of the Spider-Verse over here, and also build up to Axis and like Magneto and stuff like that. And it's like 3 different events seem to be pulling the universe in like all these different directions. And while I really like that, in some ways, because I like Edge of the Spider-Verse and I hear good things about Death of Wolverine, even though I'm not reading it. Like, and I do have my refuge books that feel safe, like Ms. Marvel and Iron Fist.
Superior Foes.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's still going?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought
it's ending soon, but it's still going.
Yeah, I think 3 issues left or 2 issues left. It's getting close. But yeah, you have your refuge books, but at the same time, there are like big events going on. But it's always been such a chore, I think, when those events are going on, to find books like Hercules. And even they can't completely sidestep it, because the second volume is so Secret Invasion that was the volume I read the fastest while I was reading it today.
I would have recommended, the first volume was so short, I would have recommended a second volume, except the second volume is the Secret Invasion one, and I think it's the weakest volume in the entire Incredible Hercules run.
Yeah, I think the third volume, like you said, when Namor and Namora show up, it's when it really finally starts to hit its stride.
Yeah.
So while I would love to recommend this to more people,
and that could be why I wasn't completely pulled in.
Yeah.
Although it was
takes
a fun
while,
read.
and I think it handles the Dark Reign stuff a little better. Mm-hmm. The Secret Invasion God War thing was really forced, and that's the sort of forced crossover tie-in stuff that we've had our ongoing storylines and the climax we've been building to for 4 months, and now we're just going to sideline that entirely for 3 months so we can do
what was the big event stuff with
Spider Island?
No, Thanos recently, like last year.
Infinity.
Right? Is that the one where Marvel basically did, like, you could either buy 14 or like 14.1, and like the 14.1 was of the book, that was the Infinity tie-in, but if you bought the normal, because I remember like some of the Future Foundation book, like it seems like they did that with like
.INH
or .INF or whatever. Yeah. That always seemed like that almost seems like the preferred solution. Yeah. So because there's asynchronous time, right? Like you can't all of a sudden claim that your Fantastic Four story that was happening 6 months from now is suddenly happening during Infinity and be like, see. So I mean, I agree. I think it's stupid to force books to coalesce into whatever current event is. I think that
that's what really Civil War did that, in that like it wasn't Wolverine tie-in issues that tied into Civil War. It was like Wolverine Civil War 1 through 3.
Right.
It was a Fantastic Four Civil War 1 through 4.
The problem was,
and then everyone complained about that because there's like a billion tie-ins to the series, and it's like
Yeah.
although their main run wasn't interrupted. Like
The tie-ins feel superfluous. They're either superfluous and ignored, or they're forcing you to shell out extra money for something that isn't really very good.
Yeah, there's no real balance there. You're like, is it worth reading? Should I just ignore it? Is it essential story reading? If so, why are you making me buy all these extra books?
Well, that was my problem with. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I think I'm kind of alone in this. I really liked Fear itself. There was just something about it. That's Ragnarok comes to.
Oh
comes to Earth.
No, that one that had some cool moments in it.
Go Norse Avengers, basically.
Wasn't that when young Loki first showed up, or did he show up a little bit before that?
Showed up before
just
that,
barely.
Yeah,
okay. I remember reading all of that stuff, and I remember the Fear Itself thing happening
Fear Itself
early
was
in that
like
run.
in his second volume, because young Loki spawned out of Siege.
right.
Was that before Fear Itself?
Yeah.
Yes.
Siege? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Siege
Yeah,
basically
Siege-
capstones Dark Reign.
Yeah, Siege,
right. I knew that,
yeah.
but I thought Fear Itself was before.
I have not read it, but I
somehow.
understand Siege is Loki pulling a Morpheus suicide.
Yes,
plan.
I read Siege, which was actually really short.
Yeah, it was only 3 issues.
Yeah.
4.
Something like that.
It was actually
four
really
issues.
well encapsulated. I really liked it.
A lot
well,
of
it really serves as a capstone of Dark Reign.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't read Siege and not have read at least some of the things that were going on in Dark
It
Reign.
was also a
before.
capstone to the Thor series at the time.
well,
Yeah.
Sadly.
unintentionally, it ended Straczynski's run on Thor.
Because they just...
Much like the all new Thor is ending Jason Aaron's run on.
Yeah, but
Thor, God of
he's
Thunder.
but he's writing that, so
Yeah, but
that's a little different.
It just
than-
like all of a sudden stops.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate
sort
that.
of in the
but
middle of the
at
run.
least
I mean, like
he's
I don't know.
somewhat controls his own destiny.
Having been reading it, if we're going back to Thor Odin's son with the axe, he's been building up the young Thor, the pre-worthy Thor with that axe since the first damn arc.
Yeah.
So I really think, what I've been saying about the Marvel writers being in on the editorial plans, I think this is something that has been planned.
Well,
and that he's on board with.
Really wish they would have done is instead of canceling Thor God of Thunder is kept with all new Thor launching, kept Thor God of Thunder to tell stories about Thor at the end of time and when he has the axe before he's worthy.
Yeah.
They're not going to abandon all of those arcs, especially because Al Ewing has picked up future Thor in Loki Agent of Asgard.
Right.
So those plot threads are still going on. That's not
Yeah.
going to go away.
But the thing that people lost their shit about with Superior Spider-Man is happening all over again with Thor, which is there are a lot of people out there in the world that are just female Thor, I hate women, and I'm not going to read this book. That exists. But the other side of it is that there are people that actually just really like Thor Odin's son.
Well, he's not going away.
He's not going away, but he's losing his flagship book. He no longer has his own book. He's now relegated to team books, which is fine. But what they did with Superior Spider-Man was they launched a new Peter Parker series of books.
Well, they did the Amazing Spider-Man 700.1, 2, 3, and 4, which were...
And they're still going with those, and 5 came
Are
out a couple months ago. Or
I didn't realize that.
They had their... And then they also had Marvel Knights Spider-Man, which came out at the same time, which is another Peter Parker miniseries.
They went half in because they weren't sure of it, but then Superior Spider-Man worked so well, I think they're going to go all in now.
Yeah, they were keeping both.
Of course, we know that Thor Odinson is going to wield the hammer again at some point in the future.
Right, we've seen that. Yeah,
it's just inevitable.
It would have been cool to keep... And that's one thing that I...
Yes,
wish
Brandt is
Marvel
making
would do
faces.
more.
Do we know for sure? Yeah, no, of course we do.
It's the possible future. All futures in Marvel are only possible futures.
No, I think there's always that balance between how many things do you tie in, how many do you don't. And that's what I was trying to say, going back to my Fear Itself comment, was that half the tie-ins for that were really good. They were appropriate, they were contextual, they captured the flavor of it. Actually, some of the X-Men ones were actually really good. But then there were others where it's just obviously they sell, they wouldn't keep doing them, but they keep doing those series that are Gosh, I wish I could remember what the name of the book is, but they're almost always a mini-series. They're almost always kind of pseudo-photorealistic, and it's like everyday people in the middle of these events.
They did Frontline for Civil War,
Frontline,
and then Siege they did, it was like Entrenched or something.
Yeah, so like there's some of those kinds of books where I'm like, do I really need to see these? Do I really care? They did, so it's like,
I'm forgetting all the names of those two, but there's something.
Well, there's definitely been books, even going back to like the '90s events, where it's like you've got you've got She-Hulk, and she's in the middle of her She-Hulk plotline, and then an issue happens where it's like an alien comes from space, and She-Hulk spends 20-something pages fighting the alien, and then it goes away, and she's like, "Wow, I wonder what that was all about." And then there's a narration box to see what that was all about. Pick up this fucking event that's going on. And now back to the story that we just interrupted for a moment.
And I feel like that should only be done. I feel like you should never overtly hijack a plot unless the writer in of himself is like, or herself, says, "Oh, I totally," because I could see that happening in, for instance, She-Hulk, because it would be kind of hilarious given her that series style, where she's like, Your Honor, blah blah, kaboom! What the hell is going on? I guess I'm gonna have to kill this guy.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. Like 9 times out of 10, it's just kind of like, put down the nullifier, Dr. Doom. I don't want to. Oh my God, Annihilus, negative zone. It's it's like completely
well, like they were
unrelated,
they just did this with Original Sin with Guardians of the Galaxy, where the most recent issue that came out, it's like everything that was going on has just stopped, and now it's Gamora and Peter Quill having a conversation where it's flashing back to what happened in the Cancerverse at the end of the Thanos Imperative.
Yeah.
Like
which is
3 years ago.
A lot of people have been asking,
and I desperately want to know what happened. But it just feels very like abrupt.
Yeah, why put it there?
And that entire issue is just Peter Quill and Richard Rider punching Thanos.
And to be honest, that's what they did with every book after Original Sin, because Original Sin had that big reveal where now everybody knows everything. Like, there are no secrets basically held from that character. So, like, Daredevil suddenly sees his father in a new light, and it's not. And in the Daredevil issue is like, oh my God, Battling Jack Murdock isn't the man I thought he was. He's a wife beater, and you're like, what? And then he has to deal with that in that issue. And then there was
that's very true. And some of those work better than others. Like the Spider-Man
really
one worked
Spider-Man
really
Silk,
well.
That's what I was thinking of.
And so did Mighty Avengers.
Yeah.
But like the Daredevil one felt really weird because he's like, I just moved to San Francisco, but I'm back in New York to tie up some loose ends.
Yeah.
That totally explains why I'm here right now.
Yeah, well, that's, continuity stuff.
Yeah, it's always so hard to, like,
I haven't read any of this yet.
I mean...
I know how it ends, though.
Yeah, I still haven't read Original Sin.
Yeah. The last point I wanted to touch on about Incredible Hercules is it's also a bit of a character reboot for Hercules.
Yes.
Who
I really like
honestly... I don't know what he was like before this. I mean, I've seen him in the background here and there. I know he got beat up at one point by the Masters of Evil and was really sore about it. Mm-hmm. But as far as I can tell, this sort of reestablished his character template, and it's this version of Hercules that I've seen everywhere else in the Marvel Universe that he's appeared since then.
I feel like there's this stable of characters in every universe that, like... outside of maybe the person who first brought them in, like no one can quite put a finger on what they're supposed to be used for.
They have not had a defining... they have not had a defining arc, event, series, whatever, and either they never had one or their old one is outdated and they need some sort of updating to be relevant. And it's the same way that all the next wave versions of those characters have become the new de facto definitive versions for now, because even though it was kind of sort of out of continuity and explained away by them being on a drug trip half the time, but that's the version of Machine Man and Elsa Bloodstone and whatever the hell name she's going by this week since.
Monica Rambeau, a.k.a. Spectrum, I think,
or
currently.
Photon, or whatever.
She's Spectrum now, I think.
Captain Marvel.
And she's actually kind of... They've been slowly pushing her away.
They've been walking her back.
Yeah. But definitely Elsa Bloodstone and Machine Man.
Yeah.
Very much had their personalities defined by Next Wave, which is hilarious.
And
this was kind of my first impression into, or my first
introduction
to Marvel Hercules, aside from the random 80s, 90s. Hercules there for an issue, and then he's gone.
Yeah, I don't know that he had much of a personality for those 20 years.
What was he? He was in West Coast Avengers, wasn't he?
No, he's in Champions.
Well, yeah, Champions.
Yeah.
He was in the. I don't think he was in West Coast. I think he was on the Prime team with.
Yeah.
But back when the Avengers were not a flagship book per se.
My sum total knowledge of Hercules before this was like 2 panels that he was in Power Pack.
Ooh.
I knew him from original Thunderbolts run because there was this big whole, Atlas totally beat the shit out of him and put him in a coma in the hospital when the Masters of Evil raffle stomped the Avengers that time, and Hercules had a grudge over it.
Yes. Which comes up later when they actually run into each other and the Thunderbolts are trying to make good.
Exactly. That's what I remember.
Yeah.
Because I never read that Avengers series.
That Thunderbolt series, though. So good.
So good. I mean, well, okay. Caveat. So good. But definitely of its time. You go back and read it now, and I'm like,
dated.
oh god.
Also, the best part of that whole series is the reveal at the end, which, well, in my opinion. So if you know that now, which most people do,
right,
then it kind of defeats the whole purpose.
I got
of
on
it
with issue 2, and then went back because everybody was going, "Oh my god, oh my god."
Yeah.
No, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
On Usenet because that was the thing at the time.
Oh, Usenet.
Rick Arts Comics Marvel Universe and Rick Arts Comics Marvel X Books might have been the...
No fucking clue.
I don't know.
When Newsarama was a weekly Usenet post.
Wow. I don't even know what that is. Usenet. I have no idea.
It was like Reddit in the Stone Age.
Yeah, it was forum boards.
Yeah, it was.
I'm not going to go into that.
So, final assessment of Incredible Hercules is that it was a shining light in a somewhat tarnished age of Marvel.
No.
Nah.
That's your assessment.
It was pretty fun. It redefined a character. It's got a couple low points. It's got a bit of a slow start, but it's a lot of fun.
There you go.
Yeah.
I can buy that one.
I think I would recommend this to people, but I would definitely give them the warning that, like, the first
either skip to the third
good.
volume or make sure you're willing to stick around at least that
maybe
long.
Skip the second volume.
Yeah, I mean, you
could probably get by skipping the second volume.
probably.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if anything really important happens in that one. They fight the Eternals.
There's the whole silly coyote pup reveal, but that's about it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That would be weird if at the end of the first one, like, the coyote's just, like, in a glass jar, and then they're, like, in the third one, they're like, where's the dog? Yeah.
For me, it's all about getting them to the Thor, Hercules, Dark Elf thing, because
I like the third arc a lot.
I remember that fondly.
I like
the third arc's good too.
I like the Amazons.
Yeah.
And the whole, like, the alternative future where it's all women and Hercules is the character, he's patriarchy, and they're like defeating him, and he's in like this giant metal armor.
Yeah.
And then they lock him in jail. Did
Yeah.
you not
And
read
the
that
Dark
one,
Reign-
Toby?
No.
It's good.
I'm
funny.
looking at you like you're a crazy person.
What's her name? The head of the Amazons? It's not Hippolyta. It's,
because she gets...
it's somebody.
It might be Hippolyta.
No,
Well,
she's
not in
there.
one.
She's there, but she's not the one who's leading the Amazons. It's
It's the
someone else.
not Wonder Woman, the Hippolyta's created daughter.
Yeah.
But, and
Anyway.
the Dark Reign bit has some good bits,
Yeah.
Hercules going all, Spider-Man, I never believed those things Jameson said about you, but now I'm forced to reconsider and you're not Spider-Man, are you?
Yeah, it's good. I like that Hulk issue, too, the Hercules versus Hulk.
Oh, yeah,
with
the one shot.
flashback, yeah.
When Worlds Collide.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that one was interesting. And I'm glad they included it in the trade, because there's another couple one-shot Hercules things that like float around in that run that I don't know got collected.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
anyway,
Recommendations?
yeah.
Who wants to start?
You.
Okay. So I brought a comic that I had not read before, and I kind of like flipped through the beginning of it, and I was like, yeah, I totally want to talk about this. I am, however, familiar with the movie that was based on it. So I'm pitching The Losers
Oh.
from Vertigo.
Oh yeah.
Andy Diggle.
And this is a story of a special forces team that was working for the CIA, and their handler essentially has them do a mission and then totally fucks them over and tries to have them killed. and everybody thinks that they're dead, but they're not. They survive, and they're like, we're going to go get revenge on this motherfucker. And it's a fun tale of murder and revenge with lots of cool shooting and explosions.
Is Jock the artist on that?
Jock is the artist on the first trade, I believe. I'm not sure how. It's 32 issues. What's that?
Has this been recommended on the show?
I don't think so.
No, but we did talk about it recently. It's come up in the last couple of weeks.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But
it was originally printed as 5 trades, and then in 2010 when the movie came out, it was reprinted as 2 trades. So I'm going to pitch the first of those 2 trades, which is the first 2 of the older trades, which is the first 12 issues.
Carry the 5.
First 12?
Yeah.
Yeah.
First 12.
That makes sense.
Sounds good.
Art's really cool. Story's a lot of fun. If you saw the movie, you kind of know what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of cool. I like it.
Yeah. Who wants to go next? Do you want me to go?
Sure.
I brought Homer's The Odyssey.
Ooh.
Actually, I did, kind of. It's weeks of Image still happening.
Are you ever going to figure out how many more you've got to go?
Week unknown. But there's an Image book. It's a one-shot trade, and it is called Infinite Horizon. And it's Jerry Duggan wrote it, and it's illustrated by Phil Noto, who I really like. And
love Phil Noto.
Set in the near-distant future.
I love him the most when I confuse him with Kevin Wada.
Near-distant?
Yeah.
Yes.
The near-distant future.
The not-so-distant
future. The year 2000. It's an unknown amount of time in the future. So,
he's just guessing it's near.
Which is the near-distant future.
If it's unknown, it's near?
And distant at the same time.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, there's these soldiers, the soldiers with no name, and they have fought in this huge epic war that lasted years and years and years and years and years. And they finally, it's over, it's done, and it's time to go home. And so they have this, they don't really have a clear way to get home because the world is war-torn now. And so they set out on this journey to return home. And if that sounds familiar to you, it's because this is based not loosely, but heavily on Homer's The Odyssey.
Oh, yeah. Underline heavily.
Heavily. This is an adaptation of Homer's The Odyssey for comic books. And if you have not read The Odyssey, it is the story of some soldiers, and they have just fought in the Battle of Troy for 10 years, which was the Iliad, was the first story, and the sequel, The Odyssey, which
is the spin-off featuring one of the side characters as the new main character.
It is exactly that, and it's their 10-year journey home.
Right.
And it's a classic story, and it has been mined for lots of pop culture adaptations of it, and I think that this one is pretty excellent, and I really enjoy the art in this a lot. I'm a big fan of Phil Noto, and if you're reading Black Widow right now, you are enjoying Phil Noto, so you should definitely...
That's kind of a leap. I could be reading Black Widow and not enjoying.
Really? You think you could be?
No, probably not, because I really like Phil Noto, but...
I don't think you would keep reading it if you didn't enjoy the art.
That might be true.
But yeah, no, this is what I'm recommending. I think it's really good. It's an interesting story, and I've always had a fond place in my heart for The Odyssey, and I think this is a fun adaptation of it.
Sweet.
Definitely check that out.
Brent?
In my quest to continue to read things that I own but haven't actually fully read, I'm recommending the first 12 issues of Morning Glories, which is getting in on... That was going to
be on my Weeks of Image.
Getting on the...
I passed on
territory.
it. I passed on it.
But
we can talk about why later.
Yeah.
So what's it actually about? I know the title, but
it's kids with powers of questionable moral character end up at a prep school of equal dubious background, and hilarity ensues.
I looked
hilarity.
Someone handed me some issues with that, and I looked at it. It was, kind of interesting and kind of off-putting.
Yeah, people compare it to Lost a lot.
Yeah. It's supposed to have some really interesting intersecting threads. Some like what's really happening we don't know, but here's the things.
Who's telling the truth? Who's not? Who's finding what secrets?
And who's the writer?
That's a good question. I don't remember. I'll get back to you on that.
I can't remember it off the top of my head either. But yeah, it's the Morning Glories Academy, and these nobody has powers. They're just
don't they?
They're just kids.
Well, they've got.
See, I haven't looked.
Well,
at
they've got
vocals.
really special talents.
Yeah,
Sort of.
They're gifted.
Maybe. They're smart kids. They got into this private prep school, but there's a reason they all got into the private prep school, and what's told in the first issue for that reason why they're all there is they all have the same birthday, which doesn't happen to come up very often later in the series, but basically there's supernatural elements going on. There's this heavy religious overtones of why the school exists, and this other counter school that you find out about. Satanic conspiracies, Judeo-Christian conspiracies. There's time travel, questionably. There's temporal traveling, the school will get relocated and stuff.
Not just Judeo, not just Christian, but Judeo-Christian.
Well, Judeo-Christian is a specific tradition which includes not only the the Judaic tradition, the Jewish tradition, which is the Torah and the remaining books of the Old Testament, but it also
Tanakh and whatever the third one is.
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know if they.
I was looking at Adam because I was hoping that he would remember.
Yeah, me remember names.
Okay.
And then it also includes the retcon that is the new
retcon,
the New Testament.
or its various offshoots. Nick Spencer,
Okay,
is the writer of Morning Glories.
Cool beans.
Discussed earlier as the writer of Superior Foes of Spider-Man.
Correct.
So yes, you're right. They are brilliant but troubled, is how Nick Spencer describes them. But you're right. There's a lot of weird supernatural-ish things, which is why I was like, "There's powers, but not powers."
It's weird goings on, like X-Men, and I was like, "It's not quite X-Men."
Not quite. No.
Neat.
Yeah.
So, Cade, what did you bring?
Okay, so the book I brought this week is sort of another of my really off-kilter Batman month things.
I appreciate the effort you've put in to theme all of these to Batman month.
Yeah.
Cade, no one else
would,
did.
I would worry slightly if you were on kilter.
Oh, fair enough. And so this one has Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman putting together a new JLA.
Oh, yeah.
This is Justice League of America: The Tornado's Path, written by Brad Meltzer and penciled by Ed Benes. This is the 2008 Justice League of America, so this was after the Infinite Crisis.
And the 1 year later?
Yeah.
This is post 1 year later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was right around 1 year later because... Yeah, it was a year after 1 year later, I think. It was
this came out right after
later.
I got out of comics.
2 years later.
But I since went back and picked up some of the trades because I'm a huge fan of Meltzer. He got a start on Green Arrow.
Yeah,
so
in comics, yeah, for sure. Respected novelist making his way to comic books with Green Arrow, and then returning for
Identity
Crisis, and then again
which
for
is
this.
why Green Arrow had such a big presence in that book.
Yeah, and why Roy has a big presence in this one.
Yeah, and Ollie does as well as a side character. So,
Cade, could you pass that book down so I could look at it?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Nope.
So this is them trying to put together a new JLA team. They the main three are voting on who gets in, who doesn't. They have
This has issue 0 in it? That's the voting issue.
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's a really good issue.
Yeah, it is. They have 25.
There's lots of good one-shot issues in there.
That must be why. It was when we were living together.
They bring a bunch of candidates together, vote on who's going to get in, who's not going to get in, but then something happens, some heroes show up, some shit goes down, and there's a new JLA.
Yep. So. And JLA includes Lex Luthor, Captain Cold.
No, that's right.
Oh,
now.
that's now.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, not right now. That's ended.
No, it hasn't.
Hasn't it?
Not really.
I mean, sort of ended.
I don't want to talk about it.
I feel like we should have a subtitle on this.
Ended?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think it did. I feel bad. I feel like I'm maybe I need to go on a mission to find anything decent that's New 52, just so that we can't be described as View from the Gutters.
I still read
the disgusting
World's Finest every week. That's my book.
You hate New 52.
They canceled.
I was reading Wonder Woman for a while. I was reading Demon Knights for a while. I've just sort of trailed off because enough of it.
They've been canceling all the ones that I was reading. They canceled Animal Man. They canceled Demon Knights. They canceled...
I'm going to check out the new Batgirl series.
Oh, me too.
I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
I actually want to read Superman Doomed if I could actually figure out which issues of each different book in.
Read Unchained instead.
Unchained?
Yeah, it's the Scott Snyder and Jim Lee. It's very decidedly un-Superman New 52. Like, he hangs out with Lois Lane in that book and not Wonder Woman. And, except for the fact that he's not wearing the red panties, he's basically pre-New 52 Superman.
Interesting.
Also, I've been enjoying the Jeff Johns Superman reboot with John Romita Jr. I think that's really good. And when Francis Manapul and I forget who else went over to work on Detective Comics. The first 4-issue arc, Icarus, was really good.
So is Jeff Johns doing good on that?
I think he writes Superman really well. Okay. He handled him really well with the Brainiac arc. I think that he knows what makes Superman cool in a way that a lot of other people don't.
See, for me, Jeff Johns, it's like he's either really on or he's really not. Because I really like some of the stuff he's done in the past, and then others just
Did you read his Superman stuff?
No, but I love
Check out Brainiac
Teen Titans
first.
stuff.
Yeah, I love his Teen Titans stuff. Read the Brainiac issue, the trade, and if you like that, then check out the New 52 stuff.
So this is why I get into fights with Joe all the time.
Because he's wrong a lot?
Well, yeah. I think that there are many other writers. Oops, sorry, Chad. Just gonna break your face. Scott Lobdell, maybe one of them, who kind of are unredeemable. Like, there's nothing that you'd point out and be like, wow, this was an insightful characterization of this person, an interesting tack on this thing. Like, even Jeff Johns' new Aquaman, I was like, yeah, good play. Like, that's a good interpretation of it.
Eric Mannix's joke with Aquaman is always that to make Aquaman cool, they had to ruin the whole rest of their universe.
Yeah, exactly. Although I have a special place in my heart for Dan Acrudi's
is that the Magic Hand one?
No, well, he did end up doing that, but it was when it was Sub Diego.
Oh yeah.
But what he was doing for a while there was like he was grabbing like weird C-list villains, and so at one point, this really bad Batman villain who's like power was like to make like little shots of air shows up in Aquaman, and it turns out that when he does it with water, like the excess force or whatever like actually causes all these weird issues, and so he's like totally slinging out with Aquaman, and then at one point like Aquaman shows up and is like electrocuting people because he's like, phytoplankton in this area conducts electricity at some astronomical rate and you're now like incapacitated. I'm like, that is so sweet. Aquaman is cool. And then I actually kind of like the idea of, I think the best thing that they could ever do to Aquaman is actually give him old Tempest's water magic powers.
Yeah.
Because if he was a water mage and him...
Superman.
Because
that was the whole thing about the Magic Hand, was he could instantly drain all of the water from someone. So he could just like dehydrate someone and kill them.
The thirst.
But also it was effective against Superman because Superman, like all of us, is weak to magic.
Yep.
So, Adam, what did you bring?
Well, I was reading a forum thread this week about the legal hugger-mugger around the Dungeons & Dragons movie rights, which tangented into people discussing what a good Dungeons & Dragons fictional presentation would take the form of, and I was reminded of my favorite rendition of Dungeons & Dragons as a fictional story as opposed to something you actually play, and that is the IDW 2011 comic book series.
This Forgotten Realms or just...
No, this was set in this was 4th edition setting and rules, and this was by John Rogers. In case anybody needs a reminder who John Rogers is, because he has the most anonymous name ever, Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle, the TV show Leverage, the cartoon series Jackie Chan Adventures.
Correct.
If you don't know who John Rogers is and is interested in his stuff after those 3, God help you.
Yeah.
This series ran, I think, about 18 issues. It got cut a little short due to various hugger-muggers, but it is, at least in the circles I move in, widely respected as basically the best D&D fiction ever. It is fun. It is funny. Rogers has been playing tabletop games for years and years, and it shows. I was reading Storytime posts by him on a forum back 10 years ago.
Didn't he write a couple of supplements for Dungeons and Dragons?
He contributed chapters to a couple in 4th edition. So, it's John Rogers. He knows his stuff. He's funny, he's an incredibly good writer, and he knows his D&D.
I'm so happy we ended up where we are right now, because when you started talking about the D&D films, there were comic book adaptations of those. I remember them. I lit one on fire once to start a blaze in the dead of winter, and I was like, dear God, Adam, don't do this to me.
I just imagined you like surviving, like you've like crashed your car in the woods somewhere, and you're like, all I have to keep me warm are these comic books, and you like meticulously went through your short box to like get to the ones that you could burn. You're like, no, not that one, not that one, not that one. These Dungeons and Dragons will do perfect.
Oh yes, this one.
No, this is good Dungeons and Dragons. He knows his stuff. The characters are smart. They're funny. They do things that if you play Dungeons and Dragons, you recognize. They argue about whose bad plan got them into the mess they're in now, and they fetch about how you're never supposed to split the party after circumstances have forced them to split the party.
Are these characters we recognize from the D&D world?
No, these are completely unique to the comic series.
Cool.
They,
I think my favorite Dungeons and Dragons comic has been Rat Queens.
It's a pretty good one.
Rat Queens is good.
I'm really digging
my opinion, this is better.
I'm digging on Skull Kickers. I'm rereading that right now.
I like Skull
Kickers. That is a bold statement.
When I say this is my favorite D&D fiction ever, I am including all the things that are D&D, if not in name.
Yeah.
I've read Rat Queens, I've read Skull Kickers. I think this is better.
Sweet.
Toby has a slightly lower opinion of it, but he's allowed to have his wrong opinions.
I read like the first 6 or 8 issues, and it just didn't. I lost momentum.
Is it as good as the Pathfinder movie?
The Pathfinder movie? Oh,
did you forget that happened?
Snowboarding down the mountain while fighting is fucking awesome.
The role-playing game system, and I was like, they made a movie?
Toby will never forget the Pathfinder film.
Good God help me. Yes, it's better than Pathfinder, the excruciatingly bad movie with
Carl Urban.
With Carl Urban in it.
Yeah, he played Batman. We only wish.
In my heart, he plays Batman.
Yep.
So, Chard, what are you voting for?
I'm not starting. I break ties.
I will break the tie this week. I don't want to vote first.
Oh, man. Why'd you have to make me vote first? I didn't even think about it. I know. This is the worst, because when you guys
we
are
talked
pitching...
so long. You had JLA, you had Losers, you had...
Infinite Horizon,
Morning
Odyssey.
And you had...
Morning Glories.
Morning Glories. All right.
I know I'm not voting for Morning Glories for the same reason that I did not pick it for my list, which is 12 issues is not enough to get the feeling of the book. And by the time you get the feeling of the book 48 issues in, you're like, I don't really know that I'm enjoying this anymore.
Well, like I said, I have it. I just like, I should read this. I don't know why I bought it.
Yeah, it's worth reading.
This is what happens when you work in a comic book store for too long, and you're just like,
Yeah. Wait, what's happening to me or what's happening to you?
No,
you just like so much power you own.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, well, I mean, it's cheap and I've got a discount and I could get it and people like it, so I should buy it.
And I'm at work looking at it all day.
Yeah, I'll read it one day.
That's why I own Hulk hands. You see something every day enough, eventually you just buy it.
That's how pop music works.
Yeah. Why'd you make me go first? What did you bring? Oh, the Losers. That's a good one.
Losers. This is why I want you to vote first, because you never have to struggle like
I know. Well, I don't think about voting on books while you guys are pitching them. I just don't pay attention when you guys are talking. So, I've read JLA. I really like that run. I think that's good stuff. I think we hate on DC all the time, so that's a cool one. I am intrigued by the Dungeons and Dragons books, but I am not a fantasy role-playing fan normally, and although it would be kind of cool to learn a little bit more about the DC or the D&D universe.
The universe doesn't matter. Yeah. What matters is it's John Rogers.
Yeah. I think I gotta go with the Losers. I think I'm gonna go with the Losers on this one. Right. I've read that one before also too, but
JLA. I'll never give up a good reason to go JLA.
Right.
Cade,
what do you want?
I'm gonna go with Infinite Horizons.
Okay.
Adam.
I'll go with Losers.
All right. I guess I will vote for Pretty Deadly so as to not create
It's not
a tie.
Pretty Deadly. No one brought Pretty Deadly.
Not Pretty Deadly.
Morning Glories.
Morning Glories. Sorry.
You could have also
Joe has
voted
been
for
talking my
D&D.
ear off about Pretty Deadly for the last 2 days.
And how it's not that great. Yeah, no, that's that's fine.
Next week, The Losers.
Yes.
Issues 1 through 12 in whatever format you would like to purchase that.
Yeah, that's the first arc, right? Really?
I'm not sure. I just kind of read the beginning of it.
It's
I feel like
it's 2 trades. I think it's 2 story arcs.
Yeah, I feel like it's 6-issue arcs.
I can't remember if I've read both arcs or not. All right. And we will catch you guys next time. Stay tuned for Con Report. Stay tuned for Long Run. And we will catch you guys next week with The Losers 1 through 12. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Me From the Gutters. I hope our recommendations have inspired you to go out and find some new comics you'll enjoy. Join us next time for a discussion of our selected title, but like every week, we encourage you to read all of the recommended books. In the meantime, please leave us an iTunes review. It really does help new listeners find the show. You can also like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube, and follow us on Twitter at ViewFRTHGutters. Feel free to email us at contact@viewfromthegutters.com. Please send us any questions, comments, or recommendations you might have. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as we post new videos every week. And thanks again for listening. And as always, keep reading.